You are watching Leicester Till I Die TV.
Watch us on YouTube.
Listen on your favourite podcast platform.
Or ask your smart speaker
To play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Right, Chris.
All right. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good day. Hello, wherever you are in the world. Welcome along. This is LTID TV from Leicester Till I Die. Follow us on all our social medias, which you can see along the bottom there. We're on absolutely everything. Just search LTID TV or Leicester Till I Die, and you will find us. Now, I've got to apologise, first of all, if you were tuning in hoping... let me just straighten that up. Hoping to see Kate. I'm sure a lot of you were. Somebody maybe not as beautiful as Kate. Kate certainly doesn't have a beard, but hopefully you'll forgive me in the fact that, it's a conversation special, and we are going to be talking to one of my heroes of the team. I know definitely one of Brad's heroes, and that's Muzzy Izzet. And we'll be talking to him, so feel free to ask any questions that you'd like to in the chat, and what we'll be doing is saving them and then sort of asking those at the end so we don't sort of double up on everything. But look, Muzzy Izzet, what a player. If you're like me, I'm sort of in my early 60s, so my first game I really remember about Leicester is the FA Cup final of 69. I didn't have much success between then, but the first period of success was, after this guy joined the club, to be honest with you, brought in by Martin O'Neill, and you can read his full story there. It is available on Amazon, his book, his autobiography, My Story, and it's available both on Kindle and hardback on Amazon at the moment. Martin O'Neill signed him, and he described Muzzy as one of the finest players ever to don a Leicester City shirt. And that is praise indeed from the little Irishman, as we like to say. But I want to say, I'm going to read this out, because at the moment I'm reading this, Martin O'Neill's autobiography. And Muzzy gets a bit of a mention. And you may remember there was a time when Martin hadn't been with us long, and he was struggling to get the team playing. And this is what he said. The transfer window passed some 48 hours ago. It was the last chance to strengthen the team before the shortened run-in. The supporters were completely underwhelmed. I had signed Julian Watts, another centre-back, for $210,000 from Sheffield Wednesday, and a young lad from Chelsea Reserves called Muzzy Izzet. I knew all about Muzzy. I've seen him every second Monday night on Kingstonian's ground in London, where Chelsea Reserves play. He is a proper footballer, despite his appearance. I don't know how he's going to take this, despite his appearance. A heavy shower of rain might show him in a very uncomfortable light, so thin is he. His legs look as if they will not hold him up for the whole of the day, never mind the rough and tumble of a football match. But he has a fabulous ball control and an ability to dribble past opponents, and courage to match that ability. He is signed on loan until the end of the season. Praise indeed, Muzzy.
Yeah, that is right. It's a
I
sort
think
of
it was praise.
I think it's a bit of a backhanded compliment the way you
Yeah.
put it. Yeah, yeah. He actually, before he put that in his book, he rang me to say if this was okay, and I said, yeah, it's not a problem. I think he was in the actual appearance and the way I looked. I was a small football player.
Yeah.
Certainly when he was coming to watch me at Kingstonians, I would have been 18, 19. So I was quite an undeveloped football player for quite a while. But yeah, I'm glad he signed me because that's what really then my career started to take off.
It did, and we'll go back to the start of his career in a second. But he was quite true. I mean, did they never have any shirts that fitted you? Because those shirts that you had on at that time always seemed to be. I mean, I just ordered a thing from America that's come through and I'd got my sizes wrong, and it's come through like you know, like a tent on me. But the shirts were big on you in those days, weren't they?
I think the shirts were big on every player because it was I think it was Fox Leisure that was making them back
Yeah,
then, and
yeah.
I don't think they knew how to make a medium sized shirt, so everything was large and XL. So yeah, I got swamped in it.
You did, you did. But look, let me just try and do this so that we don't go too small. Um, and bring your details in here. This is your sort of history, as they say. Like you say, you did start playing. Tell us about Senrab. It sounds like that's one of your Turkish teams, but it isn't. It's from London.
Yeah, it's a team from East London. Quite a lot of local, well, so it's just a local football team like Elston Park or anything like that. I suppose it's in a working class area of Poplar. Yeah, and had a few players. Well, they've had a lot of players over the years that have come out from there.
Yeah.
So myself, I'm trying to think of my brother came from there. John Terry came from there. Paul and Chelsea came from there. Well, there's a Ray Wilkins came from there.
Mm.
Over the years, there's been a lot of players that have managed to come through the system.
They've got a good reputation for that, like you say. Little time at Charlton Athletic, he had Chelsea, but it never worked out. Any regrets about that when you look at what Chelsea went on to do?
No, no, no. I was quite pleased, quite happy to leave. I'd been there since I was 13. A tough upbringing there. It was the old YTS system. I think there's
Yeah,
been some things reported of late regarding what was going on in the background at Chelsea and stuff. It was quite an old school mentality back then, and it was tough for youngsters coming through. And I think in the end, it was the right time for me to go. And like I say, Martin gave me the opportunity to really sort of kickstart my career.
and I mean, at that point, were Chelsea in the top tier or were they in the second tier?
Oh no, Chelsea was in the Premier League.
Right.
They'd just signed Ruud Gullit, and they was just at the beginning of their sort of how it was going to start. I think
Yeah,
Roman Abramovich wasn't there yet. I think he came a year or two after, maybe a bit longer. I think it was Matthew Harding that
yeah.
invested into the club, and all of a sudden, bit by bit, they started getting more and more players. But don't forget, Chelsea, when I was there from the age of 13, there was a bit of a yo-yo club,
Hmm.
a bit like Leicester, a bit like West Ham, the team that I supported as a kid. They never really established themselves for long periods of time in the top division. There was a bit of a yo-yo sort of club. And it was when obviously Roman Abramovich came, it took them to a completely different level.
I mean, you mentioned there, how does it? I've always wondered, sort of, as a youngster coming through, and yes, I know we'll talk about Turkey later, but basically, you were born sort of in England, but you see all these big names coming in. Does it demoralise you, and do you think like I'm never going to get a chance here?
Uh, well, as they started coming in, I did, what it was at Chelsea, they had a big squad of young players coming through. So if I was, say, 17, 18, they had 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, all sort of in the actual squads. So and there was all good players. There was all the way from like Craig Burley, Eddie Newton. I'm trying to think who else. Nigel Spatman there. David Rocastle was there. Vinnie Jones was there. Andy Townsend was there. Damien Matthews. So like Jody Morris. So you're looking at there's 12 midfield players. Alan Dickens. There's 12, 13 midfield players that you think to yourself, well, where's my pathway? And I could have stayed there. I was breaking into the squad regular, but not getting the actual game time. And it was like, right, how long am I prepared to sort of carry on doing this? So when the opportunity came for me to go out on loan, I knew it was the right thing. I didn't care where it was.
Yeah. And I'll just say you've just made one of our somebody that's watching very happy. Rob from the West Ham Massive. You just said you're a West Ham fan growing up. You've just made him very, very happy, I'm sure. Good evening, Rod. Welcome along. I hope you are well, sir. And then obviously, so you're there, and did you know? I mean, Martin O'Neill, from what he said there in his book, had been watching you for quite a while.
Yeah, well, I didn't know Martin was watching me. I did, if I'm being totally honest, I didn't know too much about Martin O'Neill at that time as a manager. But I did know that because of the squad that Chelsea had, so like back then it was reserve team football. There was a lot of senior players that was in the reserve team that was trying to get a move. So there was always scouts watching. Always, there's always managers there and thereabouts because of the size of Chelsea's squad. So it made sense, I suppose, for them to come down if they could see a young player. There was Terry Skiverton, who was a good mate of mine, who went to Wickham. He actually went to Martin O'Neill's team when he was at Wickham Wanderers. So, we did know there was a lot of people down there watching, but I didn't know Martin was actually watching me.
No. Rob's just gone on to say Muzzy is a hammer. They'll grab anything, these West Ham fans. You know what they're like. I've got to say, by the way, Rob, I've not spoken to you for ages. Congratulations on the European Cup last season. Not jealous at all. But if history proves anything, following us, you'll get relegated next season. He does say, did you ever have an opportunity to play for West Ham?
There was when Harry Redknapp was there, we had discussions. There was an opportunity, but it didn't quite. The timing was wrong. My contract was not quite up. The fee would have been a little bit out of West Ham's range at that moment in time for whatever reason. Harry did want me to go on a free transfer, but I would have had to have seen my contract out, and I weren't prepared to sort of do that. It was just West Ham would always be the club I supported as a kid. I used to go and watch. Back in the days of Trevor Brookie and Alan Dickens, and players like that, and Julian Dix, and there's some great players coming through. Billy Bonds, Alvin Martin. So it was all my mates are West Ham fans, and so all my family are West Ham. But obviously, when I came to Leicester, a lot of them changed. Well, so they say they changed. But I think they're back supporting West Ham again now.
Oh, typical. It's like me when because I live on the south coast, and I used to go and watch Leicester away at Bournemouth, and I used to have sort of a normal sort of top on for sort of during the game, and then afterwards when I was trying to see the players, that had come off, and I'd have the Leicester shirt hidden underneath. That's probably what they were doing with the West Ham shirt. Martin used to say, though, when he signed players, that he had to reverse them out onto the pitch so that they could see the calling stand and not the stand opposite, which, to be honest with you, wasn't the good. What was your impressions of Leicester when you first came and had a look?
Honestly, I didn't take too much notice of it. I was just happy that someone out there took a chance, and like I say, I wanted to prove myself. I was a professional footballer on paper, but I was but I'd not made a first team appearance, and I didn't care what stadium it was in. I didn't care what division it was in. I just wanted to sort of get cracking on with my career, because it's a short career, and you can pass it by.
Yeah, and you came in on loan, and it was a bit. there was a bit of an atmosphere probably in the club when you came in because Martin had come, and I've just got to say read this bit of his book, and things weren't going well, and the crowd were getting on his back a little bit. We'd sort of had Brian Little leave, then we'd had Mark McGee leave, and things weren't going well for us. How did Martin? Did he sort of stop that filtering down to the players? Was there any pressure on the players, or did he? Because he took a lot of stick, as I say, at that time.
Yeah, well, I didn't feel it. I came on my first appearance coming on as sub was the Sheffield United game where
I was going to say, yeah, of
it was
all of them.
the famous Sheffield United game where the team got booed off after the game. I think
Mm.
Martin went out and spoke to a few of the supporters and stuff. But it was that was the only game that really, because after that everything turned around.
Yeah.
We played away to Charlton, I think, on Tuesday night after the game on Saturday, which we won 1-0. And then we played Crystal Palace away on the Saturday, which won 1-0. So two really good away games, one after the other. And then we just went on this run. And so even though Martin was getting a lot of stick leading up to that Sheffield United game, I only saw it that one time. And after that, we sort of seemed to, we got this sort of momentum, and it pushed us into sort of getting into the playoffs.
You saved Martin's career almost.
Well, I don't know about that.
Take some credit. Take some credit for it.
Well, I think he made some shrewd signings. I think obviously he'd bought Neil Lennon.
Yeah.
Heskey was obviously up front. He was raw. He'd come in and he was finding his feet. I'd come in on loan. Julian Watts had come in. Steve Walsh was there, and it was just Scotty Taylor, Gary Parker. There was good players there. It was just getting us to gel, and I think bit by bit we did.
Yes, yeah. I mean, well, you were naming players. You're making me feel very old there, naming those players. But yeah, and that you mentioned him there, Neil Lennon. I mean, I've written down here, the Lampard and Gerrard of its day. I mean, you two just sort of clicked, chalk and cheese on the pitch. But what a partnership you two formed.
Yeah, you do click with certain players, and there's that sort of telepathicness sometimes, and you know where the other person's going to be. Obviously, Neil was more defensive minded. Well, Martin wanted him to be that way and protect the back three or back five, whatever it was we was playing. And I was I was told to get forward and support Emil and whoever else was up front to try and create or score, basically.
Yes, yeah. But like I said, it was a great team. You got through to the final. Leicester's, it seemed at that time, annual trip to Wembley. It would have been May if we weren't going to Wembley. And you're up against Palace, 1-0 down, second half. What looked to be like a very heavy, caught you very heavily. Obviously, only got a penalty.
Yeah, this is how football works sometimes. I was 2 months before that. I was playing at Kingstonian Football Ground at Chelsea Reserve, and I'm playing in front of 80,000 at Wembley, and that's the madness of football sometimes. I remember Walshy played a ball in down the left hand side. I sort of coming off the line onto it, and I can't remember who it was, but someone sort of caught my leg, and we managed to get a penalty, and we sort of got back into the game.
Well, I mean, these days, of course, people would be let me get my teeth in. You'd be having VAR out; it would be looked at from about 25 different angles or what have you. But it was clear cut one, wasn't that one?
Oh yeah. It was a definite penalty. There was no question about that, and it came at the right time. Gary Parker stepped up, made it 1-1, and then it sort of gave us the sort of confidence to try and go on and win the game. I don't think it was a classic game. I don't think any game that we played at Wembley was particularly a classic. It was, but it was a game that we needed to win and wanted to win because we knew what was at the other end of it. We knew that the Premier League beckoned, and we could, everyone wanted to get to the promised land, didn't they? Everyone wanted to play in the Premier League.
Yes, they did. I mean, it was I can remember that especially remember the Swindon, obviously before you joined us, but 3-0 down, gets back to 3-all, and penalty the other way. So it was nice to get that. Always think of that as Kalach coming on the goalkeeper swap. Did you as a player know that was going to happen?
No, I didn't even notice it, to be honest. We were so sort of fixed on the game. It was the dying seconds, weren't it? I
Yeah.
remember thinking in my head, "Oh, blimey, I might have to take a penalty here," and it was that sort of. I didn't think for 1 second that Calac was coming on. There was nothing spoken about it. Well, if there was, I didn't hear it,
No.
and it just sort of put a little. I don't know. I don't know if the Palace players saw that and thought, "Oh, blimey, he's a big lad," and took their eye off the ball for a second, and that was, we managed to get the winning goal.
We joke about him, and he said to Martin, and Martin always mentions it, that don't worry, boss, I'll win it for you. But it was the fact that he was sort of 7 foot, and we joke about him. But he went on to play for AC Milan and have in the Champions League and have a decent career. But I mean that goal, and I was reading recently Steve Claridge saying he never ever gets fed up talking about it. I mean, Julian Walsh used to be a regular on the channel. Still pops on every now and again when he can. He said it's his one claim to fame that he put that cross in, and he doesn't even get the recognition on the commentary. But I mean, what a goal from Claridge! I mean, how is there a better? I mean, there can't be a better time to score a goal, can there? Really?
Well, no. Well, once that went in, I think we was all in shock that first of all, Claridge scored from outside the box. That was over that.
Yeah.
But no, it's sort of. I think everyone sort of felt the same. It was a bit of a slow motion feeling to it, and it didn't fly in. It sort of wrong footed the goalkeeper because of the way he's hit it, and we've all looked, and he's hit the back of the net, and then you think, we've won this, and basically they took centre, and that was it, and it was a relief because I didn't really fancy taking a penalty, but it was what a way to win it. Yeah, it was the best Wembley. We played there 4 times. It was the most enjoyable because it was like fairy tale stuff.
I was going to ask you whether that was more enjoyable for you than a League Cup final, which of course was just 3 games. We won 2 of them, but that meant more, did it?
Well, I think it did because it was I was going on that pitch for the first time at Wembley, feeling like a child. I was excited to see what the pitch was like. I couldn't wait to feel the turf, with my hands and my feet, and experience this legendary stadium that I watched on telly, watching bloody hell West Ham beat Arsenal in the FA Cup final, 1-0, Trevor Brooking diving header, and it's that moment, and it takes you back to that time, and you think, blimey, I'm playing here. I'm playing, the amount of great players that have played on this turf, So it was a magical moment for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking back because I'm going back a few years ago now, and you wrote a thing for me for the website leicestertilidie.com, and it was my favourite things. And the first one of those was, what was your favourite match? And you actually picked that match out as your favourite match.
Yeah, well, from there we've gone to the Premier League by winning that game,
Yes.
and it really sort of kick-started a lot of our careers off. You get that. I know the Championship's a great league to play in, but there's nothing that beats the Premier League, and every player wants to play in it, and we was no different, and to see if we could hold our own in there, and it was it certainly was a magical, and the fans were amazing on the day. I remember it being just the noise and the fireworks and the after party and everything was just like and I didn't even know I was going to be signed because I was still on loan. I signed a second month's loan deal. So enabled me to play at Wembley, but I didn't know that Leicester were going to definitely sign me. Martin did say that we'd love to sign you, but I didn't know if Chelsea were going to let me go or what. So
But you were signed as an extension so you could play at Wembley.
Yeah, I signed a second-year month extension so I could play in the playoffs, which was against Stoke, I think.
Yeah.
And then I could, if we got through to that, I could then play at Wembley.
And we're in the promised land, as the commentator said. I don't think anybody, as a fan, could have expected or dreamed of what was going to happen that first season. I think we're all looking at it and going, "Yeah, we'll take 17th. You know, we'll be
Yeah.
happy with that." I mean, what from the players' point of view, what were your expectations?
Oh well, Martin always made it clear that we needed to get to 40 points. 40 points was the magic number to stay up, basically. And he made sure that we came back really fit. We came back aggressive. We came back base. Don't forget, there was myself, there was Scotty Taylor, there was Neil Lennon in midfield, there was Gary Parker, there was Emil up front. We had good legs in certain areas, and we had defenders that knew how to defend, like the old-fashioned way, I suppose you call it. And we managed to work out a system, or Martin worked out a system that suited us best. All right, we didn't have a lot of possession, but what it did do, it was more percentage based, that it stopped us from making silly mistakes in our own half, getting the ball forward a little bit quicker, and was try and cause some havoc in their last third. And that is, there was no real, we didn't really work too much on our shape. All we knew was we all knew our jobs. And once we all knew our jobs, that was all that mattered.
It got you on. You like you said, you were never ever going to sort of win game 7, 8, 9-0 or anything like that. But
No.
you were never going to concede 7, 8, 9. He'd got you hard working. And the thing that sticks out for me about that team is that if the game went on for 97 minutes, at 97 minutes, you were still giving the same as you were giving after 10, 11 minutes.
Well, we were, I was 20, 21. I had good legs, as in I could run all day. So could Neil Lennon. So could Scotty Taylor. So could Emil. So could Steve Guppy when he came. We had people in our team that could run all day long. But what we also had, we had a lot of aerial threats. We had players that could defend set pieces really well. So we didn't concede too many goals from corners or wide free kicks, but we did score loads and won games, the odd 1-0s, or by set pieces a lot of the time. And we didn't really work too much on them. We just had players that could attack the ball. I think that's something that's gone in the game now, set pieces and stuff. Well, certainly, I think was it last year that Leicester conceded, or this year before? So the amount of set
Please
pieces.
don't mention set pieces.
I know, but it's a fundamental part of football. You have to be able to defend it. You have to be able to attack.
Yes, and I think it was during that season again, and I've got a few games. There's so many games that I remember from that period. I mean, because it was sort of our, as I said at the start, our first period of real success, if you like. Yes, we'd had cup runs and promotions, but nothing like we were about to enjoy. I mean, the Arsenal game, the 3-3. You played in that one, didn't you?
I did. Yeah, I got brought up. Yeah.
I mean, whenever I speak to Steve Walsh, I always remind him. I always ask him, "Would you actually have hit Ian Wright at the end? It had to be pulled away." And he said he would have done. But that to me summed that in that one game. That summed up that team.
Yeah, it was. It was. Don't forget, it was against a brilliant Arsenal team. It was a team of, just for Bergkamp and Ian Wright up front. You got probably the all-time greats centre forwards. Ray Parlour, Vieira in midfield, Petit. They had real top-class football players. And we had to hang in there. And that was something that we knew how to do. We could hang in there and stay in games sometimes, And that night, I think it was an evening kickoff, weren't it?
It was, yeah.
Floodlights and, the Steve Walsh equaliser at the end, and the passion of his celebration, and the Ian Wright thing. Oh, yeah, he would have killed Ian Wright if he could have. without a doubt. If he could have got his hands on him, but Ian Wright was too quick.
He was hiding behind the other players. Yeah, I mean, we reached we reached league. We were everybody's favourites to go down, as obviously we are every time we come up. But we got through to a final. I mean, I think Emil, when he first broke through, he was played on the wing, wasn't he?
Yeah, he sort of used to play left-sided and coming on a bit like Thierry Henry, I guess. But then Martin stuck him through the middle as a focal point because we liked to sort of hit him fairly quick and see if he, get him running into channels because he had such good pace. He was so raw and he could run with the ball really good. He won a lot of games for us just himself with just his tenacity and his power and stuff. We understood what our strengths and weaknesses were, and we played to our strengths.
And again, one of the other things you said when you did my favourite things for me, and you mentioned him already, your favourite teammate, Steve Walsh. I mean, what a character! I mean, I think he still holds the record for the most red cards.
Oh yeah, it does. He don't like talking about that one.
I bet he doesn't.
He mentions it every 2 weeks.
Right.
Yeah. No, he's been a great servant to the club, hasn't he? And what he's done and what he's achieved there, and the amount of seasons he's played with the injuries that he's had. I think that's what people don't realise, the amount of knee surgery that he's had on both knees, and still managed to sort of get himself out there most weekends and put in performances is he's certainly like a legend for the football club, and still works down there to this day.
Of course he does. Yeah. And works with you as well. Do you still have the?
We still got our academy. Yeah, we still got our academy. We work together and stuff. So yeah, we obviously we go back from '96, so 20 odd years now. So it's all good.
Is it going well, the academy?
Yeah, it's going well. Yeah, it's going all good. We're just just trying to always trying to improve.
Yes, yeah. Martin O'Neill, we've got to ask about him because hard man to follow for the other guys that followed after him. But was he the biggest influence on your career as a manager?
Yeah, I think he was. You take my dad out of that equation, but professionally,
yes.
He was. There wasn't too many people that were prepared to give me a chance, and not just my career. You look at Neil Lennon's, you look at Emil's, you look at Steve Guppy's. There's a Robbie Savage. He's signed these players, got these players in, and they all gone on to things and create a career for themselves. And it was him. He kept you on your toes. You never felt quite. 100% like you was going to play every week, even though you felt you did. But he just had this way of keeping you on your toes,
Yeah, and we said before about that Arsenal game about Foxes never quit, if you like, and that Arsenal game summed it up. But so did the Middlesbrough League Cup final. I mean, they had some big names, and obviously they went 1-0 up through Ravanelli. And I know Middlesbrough, I think, came in for you a few times towards the end of your time at Leicester. But that I was watching it with my brother-in-law, and I hadn't realised at the time that he'd actually got a bet on Middlesbrough to win. If I'd known that, I'd have kicked him out. But that again, last-minute goal from Heskey goes to the replay. Claridge again is the famous shin, comes back into play, winning that first trophy in the season was supposed to go down, and we're in Europe. I mean, that you must be thinking like sticking two fingers up at the press.
Well, don't forget as well, I think Middlesbrough beat us 4-0 opening game of the season, 3 or 4-0 at Filbert Street. Juninho tore us to shreds. So we knew we was in for a tough game, but Martin, pulled a bit of a masterstroke with Pontus Kmart, man-to-man marking him, and we just knew that we could outwork them, we could outfight them, and it proved us right. You know, when we got to Hillsborough, once we got that equaliser at Wembley, I just felt at Hillsborough I just knew we was going to win. I don't know why, but I just knew we was. I just felt more confident.
And sorry, I thought you were going to say something else. And I spoke to Pontus, and he came on and did a show like this one a while ago, and he said he's still got Janino in his back pocket. He's still
Well,
uncomfortable.
he was little enough to fit in it. He was some player though. He was a
Oh, yeah. But they did have a good side, but having all the best players, it's not about having the best players. It's about how they gel as a team. But look, we got into Europe, and I've got to ask about that famous Madrid game. I mean, Martin was not happy with the referee. I think we all know that. As players, and he never played a game, or he never refereed a game after that, which I think sort of says all that needs to be said. But did it feel at the time, as you're out there on the, playing, you're thinking there's something going on here?
Well, you'd think out of the 3 penalties, you'd get one of them, especially being the home team. Certainly, if we was away from home, and they would have got 1, maybe 2 out of the 3. It just seemed like we was the little club. They had some superstars in their team. They wanted them to stay in the tournament, and they didn't care if we got knocked out. That's how it felt afterwards. During the game, we just felt done by, but we had to carry on with it and try and get back into it. But it was just one of them. It would have been a real achievement if we could have got past that opening leg, and got through Atletico Madrid, because they was a good team, but we gave them a run for their money,
Yes, and we, like you say, the only lost due to a dodgy ref, allegedly. Scott says here, was Martin as animated in the dressing room on the training ground as he was at the side of the pitch?
In the dressing room, he was more calm during the week. He wouldn't say much. He'd say very little, but you felt his presence and you could feel him around the place. John Robertson and Steve Walford would be on the training pitch. Martin would come out and do little bits and pieces that he wanted doing. But he was always just geared up for the game on Saturday and getting your head right. And every now and then, as you walk past him in the corridor, say a few things about the game coming up and how much it meant to us and how much we needed to win and get the 3 points. And then in the changing room beforehand, it was the team talk. He kept it, he didn't complicate it with too much. If things were going bad at half time, he would let you know. He would absolutely go into one. But if you won the game and he didn't care how you won it, this is what I really sort of loved about him and admired about him. He really it was celebration time. You could win a game 1-0, get battered, but win it 1-0. He didn't care. It was 3 points. I don't care how we get the 3 points. Let's get on that bus and have a few beers and let's get back to Leicester. And it was like a celebration all the way back down the M1 or wherever it was we was coming from, and that's what I liked about it.
Yeah. I think at that time we had the tag, was it boring Leicester? But we didn't care, did we? As long as you're winning.
Well, no, I don't know if people called us boring, but we.
No, I think obviously not Leicester fans, but other fans, I think, were.
Oh, possibly. I didn't hear too much stuff. It was only newspapers back then. We didn't have mobile phones or social media or anything like that, so that didn't bother us too much. We knew we was a decent team. We knew that with the players that we had and the players that Martin kept bringing in, we was getting better and better every season. So, we was a handful for teams. Teams didn't enjoy playing us, put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at that above you there, that career, I mean, for Leicester, you played 319 goals, 47 goals for midfield, which was amazing. 2 championship promotions, 3 times League Cup finals, 2 League Cup wins. You won, 7 out of your 9 international caps at Leicester. You played a World Cup semi-final against none other than Brazil. You must look back on the career with a sort of a great amount of pride, really.
Yeah, Martin, like I say, he's gave me this opportunity, and you have to take it. You have to sort of step up. I was helped with having good players around me. I had a good manager that believed in me. And I wanted to win games of football. I wanted to win just as much as anyone else. And between us, we managed to achieve some decent things. I know we played in three. We could have done even better if Martin maybe would have stayed, and he signed a few more players, and maybe he had the money to spend. He left and Peter Taylor came in. If Martin would have had that 20 million to spend, who knows where we could have gone? We'd just finished, I think, 8th in the league. With a couple of decent signings, we could have been looking at top 6.
Yeah,
why
definitely. I've got to say, talk about Martin leaving. I mean, in fairness, I understand players and managers that want to go to clubs that are their clubs, if you like. And Celtic was always Martin's club. He'd supported it as a boy, so I kind of understood. He'd turned down Leeds, he'd turned down Everton. We'd had although the games with the signs being held up, Martin don't go. Peter Taylor came in, and I mean, you speak to Walshy and you get one version, but I was. It almost felt like he tore that club apart.
I this basically what happens is if you make too many mediocre signings or bad signings, and you let the core of your team go, there's only one way it's going to go, unfortunately. And yeah. I was in there through it all because obviously I stayed.
Yes.
And few left and stuff, and I could see what was going on. But Peter Taylor didn't do it intentionally. He thought he was signing good players. He thought he was signing players that were going to improve the club in his opinion, in his mind. But
even Junior Lewis.
Well, this is the madness of football, and it's about opinions, and it's about what people think's good and everything else. Yeah. And the club trusted him with that, and obviously it didn't work out for him. And that was the beginning and the end of sort of Peter Taylor, really.
Yes, it was. It was just before Peter came, and we describe him very much as the one that got away, Stan Collymore. That one game that he played, I think he played Sunderland after the League Cup final win. It was 5-2. I mean, him and Emile, had we been able to keep hold of Emile, and like you say, I think, and Martin had stayed, who knows where we could have gone at that point.
Well, that was the one we're talking about. Winning games of football, I can't ever remember winning a game of football and it being easy, but that game felt easy because we had two real good, tough, hard centre forwards. It was with good ability. You're only ever as good as your strikers. I've always believed that. The reason that Leicester won the Premier League is because they had the best striker in the Premier League for that season. With Jamie Vardy. I know they had other good players in and around, and don't get me wrong, but it's all about scoring goals. And we felt we had two players up front that were going to be a hell of a threat for a lot of teams that could score goals. Yes. And if we would have had them, who knows what would have happened? I'd like to think that we would have, with another couple of signings here or there, that team, like I say, I think we could have been a top 6 team. I honestly believe that.
Yes. And I mean, it came to an end. Martin left. I believe you wanted to actually join Martin at Celtic. It wasn't to be. You went to Birmingham.
No, that wasn't right. No.
Right.
No. I never sort of said I wanted to go to Celtic. I didn't go to Birmingham until my contract ran out. Martin left, and then after Peter Taylor had gone, we had Bassett, then we had Mickey Adams. I was still there for that. So I was there another sort of 2 or 3 seasons after Martin had already gone.
Yeah.
And we got relegated, I think, the year after Peter Taylor had gone. We got relegated, and then Mickey Adams took over. We was in the Championship, and we managed to come back up and then get relegated again. And that's when I left because my contracts had run out and Leicester couldn't renew it, basically.
No, I understand that, and I think people look back and go, yeah, the fact that you stayed with us as long as you did, and not all players did, is to be admired. What was it like? Because obviously that was the time when the club went out of business.
Well,
And
no, it went into administration,
yeah,
and it was it was tough because it was we didn't quite know. We was the first club to go in administration. We didn't quite know what was going on. We was told to take wage deferrals. Certain senior players had to take wage deferrals for the club to operate and everything else. It wasn't really explained to us greatly because we felt that, and we was told that if we went into if we took wage deferrals, we wouldn't go into administration. That was how it was sort of explained
yeah.
to us. So a lot of the players took wage deferrals, and then we came in the next day and we'd gone into administration. So it was a bit of a weird one, really.
Obviously, it didn't affect how you performed on the pitch because you got promotion straight back up. So
Well, we had good senior players in that team as well. There was myself, we had Matt Elliott, we had Jerry Taggart, we had Ian Walker, we had Frank Sinclair, we had Brian Dean, we had James Scowcroft. So we had a good enough team to be able to get out of that league, and it sort of galvanised us to sort of listen. If we want to get this club back on track, we have to get back into the Premier League, and I think it gave us that incentive. It was out of us and Portsmouth, weren't it? For
yes,
the automatic promote, not automatic to win the actual thing. So we felt that we could play to our strengths, and we had Mick Adams was good. Alan Cork was our coach. He was brilliant. I thought he was an excellent coach. Great with set pieces, and we had a massive team. Every player I mentioned there: Matt Elliott, Jerry Taggart, Brian Dean, Jamie Scowcroft. They was all huge players, and we just seemed to set pieces every week. We'd score.
yeah. I'm going to come on to the questions from the viewers in a second, but I just want to mention. Please talk me through it. And again, this was your favourite goal, and I think it's your fans' favourite goal of all those that you scored. It was against Grimsby. It's like the overhead kick, bicycle kick. Talk us through that one.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember the game. It was a game that wasn't going particularly well for me. I wasn't playing particularly great. I think Frank had just been sent off. Frank Sinclair. It was raining, and the game wasn't going particularly anywhere. It looked like we weren't going to get anything out of the game, and I just remember the ball going down the right hand side to Andy Impey, and my job has always been try and get in the box and see what falls to me. And I remember as he's hit it, I instantly knew I was going to do an overhead kick because I knew it was coming behind me. But I didn't think for 1 second I'd make contacts and it go in the top corner. It's one of them you try 100 times and it doesn't happen, but I didn't even know it went in until I see Matt Elliott running towards me because I couldn't see. I was facing the other way, but it was one of them that I knew I made good contacts, but I didn't know where it was going.
You should have said it was planned all along.
I wish
I knew
I could.
exactly what I was doing.
If I was that good, I would. But trust me, that them sort of goals are you do try them. You do want to score, but you're not quite sure you're going to make good contact.
It's nice to have got one like that, though, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Nate, who's joined us from America, says, "What's the most intense atmosphere you've played in, home or away?"
It would probably be with Turkey, playing in Istanbul. In any game out there, it's a different type of atmosphere out there. It's like a tribal atmosphere. It's like it's hard to they have the fireworks, they have the big things that they throw on the pitch with what they call. It's just you can feel the intensity. They don't just turn up and say an hour or so before the game. They're in there all day, and it's sort of But saying that, in the Premier League, Newcastle was always a tough place to go and play. Anfield was great, but I'd say for raw atmosphere, I'd say in Istanbul.
And talking of Turkey, of course, got to mention it, semi-final against some little South American team, which unfortunately you lost, but that must have been a great one to have played in.
Yeah, it was. To get into the squad and to be able to say that you've played in a World Cup semi-final is, I didn't think for 1 minute that would ever be the case. But yeah, Brazil in a semi-final, come on, right midfield against Roberto Carlos. Yeah, it's one of them that sort of. Unfortunately, we didn't win, but we came third in the tournament, and it was a massive success for Turkey. I don't think anyone really expected that.
No, and again, it's something you've achieved that can never be taken away from you.
No, I like I say, really proud of it. My dad's obviously Turkish, and
yeah,
it was huge for the family. It was a great occasion, and yeah, it was just an enjoyable experience for me.
Nate said he's just watched it. What a goal! And just one more question, and then we'll bring Brad in, because I know Brad's got some questions for you. Scott again says, "Hi Muzzy, how are you? Well, with your time at Leicester, who would you say were the leaders within the dressing room?"
Leaders, we had quite a few. From people, obviously Steve Walsh, Neil Lennon, Gary Parker was a leader, Jerry Taggart, Tim Flowers. I think that was what Martin always tried to sign. I think he tried to sign big characters that could offer that. I think he really felt that was a huge part of trying to win games of football. He liked to bring experienced players in, but he liked characters. I think that was his. I think he always looked for that.
Yes, yeah. I'm going to now, thanks to everybody that's been putting those questions in, but they always say about bringing back old players coming back to clubs, and they always say the same about bringing old TV programs back. I'm not sure whether this one is a good one to bring back or not, but this is my version of it, and Chris will fix it. Don't panic too much here, Muzzy. Don't worry. But I've got a letter here. It says, "Dear LTID, I'm a huge, with plenty of E's there, Leicester City fan, and my current favourite is Kelechi Iheanacho. But Mummy says I have to stop stalking him. Please, could you fix it for me to chat with my favourite Leicester City player ever, and ever? This is Muzzy Izzet. I even have a replica shirt like the ones he used to wear. P.S. I don't have a picture of me with Muzzy, but this is me with Steve Walsh, but I was imagining it was Muzzy." And that's from Brad, aged 40, from Leicester. Let's bring him in. Brad, are you there?
Yeah, I am. Thanks for embarrassing me in front of my hero. And you're right, Muzzy. The Leicestershire Fox's Leisure don't know how to make a shirt that fits, because this is a large, believe it or not, and it's swamping me through. I don't remember writing that letter. That might be when you gave me a few too many to drink, Chris.
Oh, I remember that. No, you are.
Yeah.
Well, I thought you did enjoy that.
Yeah. And the saddest thing is, I have gone full fanboy, I'm afraid, is it? I can't show you the shirt, but your name and number is on the back, number 6. And is it? You were my favourite player of the O'Neill era. So thanks for that, Chris. Very accurate with your letter of recommendation you've written there.
You're welcome. Just to end up, I believe you've got a couple of questions for Muzzy.
Yes, well, I had about 300, but you said please keep it down to 2, and Muzzy's answered many of them I had to actually ask. I mean, I just want to put comparisons, Muzzy, to Leicester now, and when you were obviously there. You, like you said, were one of the few old school Leicester players like yourself, Elliott and Taggart, that stuck by the club when they went into the Championship the first time round. how pivotal is that in football today? Because we've seen a few Leicester players that have been around for a while that are still stuck with the club, that have, embedded in the Premiership and suffered the heartache of relegation. How vital can it be for these players that Enzo's brought in, to compare it to how it was for your promotion, that those sort of players have stuck around?
Well, if you look at who's there this day, is it Ricardo, Dewsbury, who else is there this stayed? Iñárritu.
Yeah.
I think it would only be Dewsbury that's played in the Championship out of the players that have.
Oh yeah, on loan. I think he went on loan to Luton and
Jamie
Blackpool.
Vardy as well, wasn't there?
Oh yeah, and Vardy.
Oh, and Vardy, yeah, of course. Look, to go into the Championship is from the Premier League and from them winning the FA Cup and winning the league and everything else that they've achieved, these great things. It's a bit of a culture shock to go into the Championship, and you have to go Saturday, Tuesday, and it's a bit more intense. It's a little bit more physical. You're going to be the favourites to go back up, so there's a little bit of pressure on you there. I think obviously a lot of the players have wanted to leave and everything else, but for them to go up, they're going to need to keep their better players that they've got left at the club, because the players that they've brought in, they've got no experience or not too much experience playing in the Championship, and it can be quite daunting, So it's going to be a long season. I've seen them play. I've been to every home game this year, and even though they've got some good results, I think they've struggled in games. I don't think they've quite been the Leicester City that we thought they was going to be. I think obviously it's a work in progress still. My biggest concern is they're not creating loads and loads of chances. It seems like they're playing a lot of sideways and backwards football at the minute. And it's not very exciting to watch. And I think they need to get back to the way that they can play and move the ball a little bit quicker and get the ball forward a little bit more quicker, because it can be sometimes a bit boring to watch at the minute, certainly at home. The crowd are there. You got 32,000 wanting them to sort of really push on and get at these teams and everything else. But it seems to be a little bit, I don't know, it just seems to be a little bit stale at the minute. And they've had some good results still. If they can really sort of take it and play a little bit more positive, then they should win games more easily.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that I kind of gets the feeling. So it's at that early O'Neill stage with obviously a little bit more success. I know O'Neill had his early struggles, but it's like we've got to be a bit patient and maybe wait for that, because I know Enzo has suggested that he wants it a bit more quicker tempo himself. So I suppose that's one that Leicester fans can hopefully look forward to seeing. And you spoke a lot tonight, obviously, about the biggest influence in your footballing career, Muzzy, Martin O'Neill. I know you've had several interviews with him yourself, and it's been discussed a lot. But I just want to know how influential Martin was to your career, because you said earlier in the show that obviously the Premier League is like the pinnacle for anybody in England to try and play in. Is the Premiership, and I know it was still early days in its lifespan, but had Leicester, and I hate to bring up this sort of thing, but had Leicester not won that playoff final against Crystal Palace, but still been interested in you, I kind of feel, I know your answer might go to what you said, but had Chelsea maybe gone, well, we might see a place in you there, would that have maybe stopped you, going to Leicester and joining us at that point? Because you weren't really attached to Leicester as you were later with your career. Obviously, that was only a few months at Leicester. It wasn't like you owed a commitment to him, but was the law of still working under Martin O'Neill, was that kind of like dead set? I will go if they come in for me, regardless of if we came up or not.
100%. I was ready to leave. I was ready to leave Chelsea and like I said earlier, start my career. I didn't play in the Championship, and that didn't bother me. I wanted to just play, first team football, regular. And at that moment in time, Leicester gave me that opportunity. I found out years later that it was out of Leicester and Fulham that they both came in for me, and the manager at Fulham at the time was Mickey Adams, and I didn't even know that Mickey had come in for me until years and years later. So now that might have been different if they would have turned around and said to me, look, Fulham want you, Leicester want you on loan. I may have then, being from London, have said, oh, Fulham's only round the corner, I could But that's in hindsight. I didn't even know that they was interested in me. So luckily for me, because obviously Leicester's been great, and I still live here now to this day, and my 3 kids have all born in Leicester. So Leicester's been amazing for me. But yeah, I didn't know the Fulham connection, and I don't know what would have happened.
Well, thank God. Their loss is our gain, as they say.
Oh, well, yeah.
Exactly. Muzzy, we always appreciate players when they come on. It's your own personal time, and you're giving it up to come on and talk to us. And I thank you so very, very much. Hope your daughter did well with the hockey team tonight.
Oh no, they got battered. But hey,
What a way to end it.
Hang on, we'll cut that out. It's not live. You won't know.
that one out. Yeah, they got battered. I think it was 8. But anyway.
Brilliant. Muzzy, really, really do appreciate it. All the best to you and all your family, and hopefully speak again soon. But thanks very much, and all the best.
Absolute pleasure. You take care.
Thanks very much. Take care. Bye-bye.
See you, Muzzy.
Bye.
He really, truly is one of the greats, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. There was no way I wasn't wearing this shirt when you asked me to come on and allowed me to. The fact that you allowed me 2 questions, I had to narrow it down from 150, and then he started answering them all. And then you got a topic and you answered it. I was like, oh, I'll choose this question. So luckily, you left me space for some questions.
It was so difficult because obviously I'm going through his whole career.
Yeah.
Those
But the
questions
thing
that
is, you
said
could talk
me-
to him for hours, couldn't you? You could
You
talk
could.
to him for hours. Such a lovely bloke.
You
I'm
can't-
sure he wouldn't like to talk to us for hours, but
No, there is that. You can find. I mean, you know what football's like. I mean, I'm going to Southampton on Friday, and I met up with a guy that I used to work with when I was 20. So I'm going back 42 years, and it's the first time we've properly met up in those 42 years. 90% of the conversation was about Leicester. The football
yeah,
club. You know,
it's-
it's you could meet, and they're so nice, these ex-players, and when you get to meet them, you know, you could just sit there and go, right, to his missus, see you in a week. You know,
yeah.
really.
I mean, some of the ex-players. I mean, you know me, Chris. I watch anything and everything Leicester, and he's done a few podcasts. And me and you. Cheers for that. Thanks for that. I love the fact that you dug out our picture with Steve Walsh. I didn't want to embarrass myself further, but I didn't. I'm sure Muzzy's done it 1,000,001 times. But my mum owned a factory. She didn't own it. She worked for a factory who used to do all the printing work for Izzet and Walsh and their kids.
Yeah.
And one birthday, she actually managed to snag him one day when he came in early to pick up all deliveries because they picked him up themselves.
Okay.
True story, gospel as it is. I got a phone call from my mum and go, hello, and this is my birthday. She goes, I got a few people who want to wish you a happy birthday, and it was Elliott, Walsh, and Muzzy that were on the phone to me saying happy birthday. So I have had my moments in life. Just never got a picture with him. Should have screenshotted it. Had it out the bits I mean sending me.
Well, I'll send you a screenshot of this so you can see yourself on screen with him. But we're going to get a handwriting expert in because I'm definitely sure that is your handwriting.
You know what the sad thing is? It probably is. My handwriting was scruffy as a kid. I'm a lefty, you see, so I'm always going across my own writing. That's what it is.
One of my girls is a lefty, so there's nothing wrong with that. I was going to ask how old you are. I had to guess at 40.
33, you cheeky git. Although it's funny you actually mentioned the Arsenal game because that was my first proper introduction to Leicester as the first team games as well. So I had memories of him chasing in my hand. I was giggling to myself backstage.
But you were sat there going like, oh, I can't ask that one. Oh no, I can't ask that one.
Pretty much right. And when you mentioned the Celtic route, I was going to ask him if he was ever tempted by Martin to join. When he went, no, never happened. I was like, right, thanks, it's it. Cheers for that.
I know, well, make me look a fool. I read somewhere today that he'd wanted to join Celtic, but he said.
But I suppose it follows the forum, doesn't it? Because I think Guppy and Lennon initially joined, didn't they? And obviously he's part of that dynamic trio, if you will. So I can understand why Papers probably did.
Yeah. But just shows. But yeah, I was going to ask you how old you were, but I thought then you thought, I bet he's up to something, so I didn't want to give it away. But, Chris will fix it. I'll get you a badge made, mate.
Cheers, mate. As long as it says special, I'll be fine. I'll say everything.
I was about to go into my Savile but impersonation, but I think it's best if I don't. I was just wondering if I could get away with that. Muzzy's face when I came back on was like, "What the hell's going on here?"
He was like, "Wasn't expecting a show. What's going on?"
No, Brad, stay on for me because I want to have a quick word with you about the shows this week, if you can do. So,
Not a problem, mate.
Much. Thanks for coming on. I hope you enjoyed that. And
I did, mate.
Speak to you in a second.
Yeah, thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak to him, mate. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. You are welcome, sir. Right, so we'll be speaking I'll be speaking to Brad in a second. Thanks to Muzzy for coming on. Look, what a gentleman. Whenever these ex-players come on, like Brad said, we can go on and on and on. And there's so many things I wanted to ask him. There was twice as many questions that were coming up, and I didn't get to all the questions. Some of them I'd already covered myself with my notes. But they'd give up their own time to come on. And that's the thing we must appreciate. He couldn't come on earlier because his daughter was playing hockey. Unfortunately, they didn't do well. So they do give their own time up, so we really do appreciate it. But look, we're going to be back tomorrow at... it's a very good question. I think it's about 7:15 or 7:45. I think the England game kicks off at 7, so it could be 7:45. We're doing a watch-along for England-Scotland. There'll be myself doing the commentary, and then we've got... Dan in giving England comments, and Doug will be joining us giving Scottish comments. The new and all that. We will see you there tomorrow night. Thursday, it'll be Wednesday then. It will be what should have been tonight, which was the debate show. And as much as I love Brad, Dave, and Kate, I'm sorry, Muzzy comes first. And then we're back to normal with Thursday with all the shows. So thanks very much for watching, guys. Remember, if you're new, please subscribe. If you haven't yet, or if you have subscribed, and even if you haven't, click that like button. It really, really does help the channel. And thanks to say to Muzzy, and thanks to Brad for popping on there. I'll see you tomorrow night at about 7:15. Thanks very much. If you've been watching, thank you very much. You've been listening on the podcast. I've been Chris. This has been Leicester Till I Die. This is Arnie. Good night.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network.
TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.